Evil doesn't always come in the shape of a monster. Sometimes it shakes your hand. It wears a uniform or the face of someone you trust. When people think of massacres, they think of wars, distant battlefields, history books. But some of the most horrifying massacres didn't happen in wars. They happened in towns, villages, and homes where people thought they were safe. Innocent people, families, children, entire communities, erased not by monsters, but by their own kind. Tonight, we'll uncover the most horrifying, merciless, and soul-crushing massacres ever recorded. This is the top 5 most horrifying real massacres in history. Number 5. My Lai Massacre. Vietnam, March 16, 1968. A quiet morning in the village of My Lai became a bloodbath. American soldiers entered the village expecting enemy fighters. They found farmers, women, and children. And they opened fire anyway. In less than 4 hours, more than 500 civilians were killed. Women were assaulted. Babies were executed at point-blank range. Survivors reported soldiers laughing while they burned homes and destroyed rice stalks, leaving nothing behind but corpses and smoke. When the truth finally emerged, the US government tried to bury it. Only one man, William Calley, was convicted, and he spent just 3.5 years under house arrest. Justice was never real for My Lai. Only the silence of the dead remained. Number 4. Wounded Knee Massacre. South Dakota, 1890. Snow covered the Lakota Sioux camp. Tension had been building for weeks as US troops moved in to suppress the Ghost Dance movement, which they saw as a threat. The US Army surrounded the people, claiming it was a peaceful disarmament. They lied. A single gunshot broke the stillness, and the soldiers opened fire on hundreds of unarmed men, women, and children. Many tried to run, but the soldiers used machine guns, mowing them down as they fled through the snow. Nearly 300 Lakota Sioux were killed that day. Survivors later said the soldiers kept firing, even at the wounded. Children were found frozen in their mothers' arms. The snow covered everything except the blood. The US Army later called it a battle, but it wasn't a battle. It was an execution. The soldiers received 20 medals of honor for their bravery. Survivors buried their loved ones in frozen ground. The snow was red. And the wind carried their screams for miles. Number 3, Tulsa Race Massacre. Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921. Greenwood, known as Black Wall Street, was one of the richest Black communities in the United States. But success made them a target. A rumor, a single accusation was all it took. White mobs, some armed and protected by those in power, descended on Greenwood like a storm. They dragged people from their homes, shot them where they stood, and left their bodies bleeding in the streets. Then came something even darker. Planes flew overhead and dropped firebombs on the neighborhood. The first aerial assault on civilians in U.S. history. Within hours, more than 1,200 homes were destroyed. An estimated 300 people were killed. For decades, the massacre was erased from textbooks, buried in silence. Not because it wasn't real, but because the guilty walked away free. Number 2, St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre. Paris, August 24th, 1572. The city woke up to a calm summer morning. Merchants opened their doors. Bells rang softly in the distance. But beneath that quiet surface, the streets were already on edge. For years, Catholics and Protestants, the Huguenots, had lived in fragile peace. That morning, a royal wedding was supposed to seal that peace. But it wasn't a celebration. It was a trap. The bells of Saint-Germain-l'Auxerrois rang, and the slaughter began. Soldiers and mobs moved through the streets with lists of names. Huguenot nobles were the first to die. Then everyone else. Men, women, and children were dragged from their homes, stabbed in doorways, butchered in alleys. The Seine filled with bodies. The massacre spread beyond Paris in the days that followed. Historians estimate between 5,000 and 30,000 lives were erased. It began as a quiet day in Paris. It ended as one of the darkest nights in European history. Number 1, Jonestown Massacre. Jonestown, Guyana, November 18, 1978. A community that claimed to be a paradise of equality and peace. But behind the speeches, there was a cult, and behind the smiles, there was a man, Jim Jones. Jim Jones manipulated his followers for years. He controlled their finances, isolated them from the outside world, and conducted terrifying white knight drills, designed to convince them that death was their only way out. He convinced hundreds of people to see suicide as salvation. More than 900 people, including 300 children, were forced to drink Flavor Aid mixed with cyanide, a lethal poison that kills within minutes. The youngest were dosed first. Parents followed. Others who refused were injected or held down. Some tried to escape, and they were shot. The sound of mass death was captured on tape. In that recording, you can hear Jones calmly persuading his followers to drink the poison. And then the screams. Men, women, and children crying in terror and agony, a chorus of pain that no one can ever unhear. The world would wake up to hundreds of lifeless bodies lying together in the mud. Mothers, fathers, children. for the will of one man. Massacres don't just belong to history books. They happen where people believe they're safe. And that is what makes them unforgettable. If you want more stories like this one, subscribe to my channel.